What happened to the mayor who signed the order to remove the statue of the Virgin Mary from a town square? A miracle that began the very next night after the removal and that no one has been able to explain to this day. This is the story of Michael, the mayor who thought progress mattered more than memory, and the quiet signs that proved him wrong. Before we continue, share in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Let's see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary have reached. And if you haven't yet joined our family, subscribe now, because here, each day, we witness the tender love and mighty power of the Mother of God. Michael Peterson was 54 years old and had been mayor of Willow Creek for 8 years. Willow Creek was one of those small Midwestern towns where the same families had lived for generations. People still waved from porches. Neighbors knew the names of your children and your dog. Doors stayed unlocked at night. The town square sat right in the middle, and for more than 60 years a statue of the Virgin Mary stood there. The statue arrived in 1958, brought by the grandparents of many current residents after a pilgrimage to a Marian shrine. It was simple plaster, about 5 feet tall, with a blue mantle and hands joined in prayer. Generations grew up passing it every day. Grandparents brought grandchildren to pray there. Young couples made quiet promises in front of it. The statue belonged to the town the way the old oak trees or the river did. Michael was born in Willow Creek. He was baptized in the church 2 blocks from the square. He made his first communion there. He prayed the rosary with his mother when he was small, but that was a long time ago. For years he had not set foot inside the church. He said he was too busy. Meetings, budgets, campaigns, events. The truth was simpler. He had drifted away from faith. He had drifted away from other things too. His marriage to Laura had grown quiet. They talked about bills, groceries, schedules. They did not talk about feelings. They did not laugh the way they used to. They lived in the same house, but felt far apart. Then there was Ethan, their only son. Ethan was 28. He lived in a city 4 hours away. Father and son had not spoken in 3 years. It started with an argument. Michael wanted Ethan to take a safe job in town. Ethan wanted to pursue music in the city. Both were stubborn. Both were proud. The last words Michael said were, "If you walk out that door, don't come back." Ethan walked out. Michael never called. He waited for Ethan to come to him. Laura asked many times, "He's your son, Michael. Your only son." Michael always answered the same. "He knows where I am." 3 years of silence grew between them. The empty bedroom upstairs still hurt every time Michael passed the door. One Tuesday, in September, 3 men walked into Michael's office at City Hall. Harold owned the hardware stores in 3 counties. Bill ran the biggest construction company in the region. Marcus invested in commercial properties. They sat down without waiting for an invitation. Harold spoke first. "Michael, we want to revitalize the square. Kiosks, small shops, a real commercial area. It will create jobs. It will bring money into town." Marcus opened a folder and showed drawings, clean lines, bright colors, modern designs. Michael looked at the plans. They looked good. Then he asked the question he already knew the answer to. "And the statue?" The 3 men exchanged glances. Harold answered plainly, "The statue has to go. It's right in the center. We need that space for the main kiosk. There's no way around it." Michael felt his stomach tighten. People are attached to that statue. It's been there 60 years. This will cause trouble. Bill leaned forward. "People need jobs more than statues. A statue doesn't pay bills. Progress does." Harold added the final point. "We're willing to fund your re-election campaign. Full support." Michael stayed quiet. The room felt smaller. After a long pause, he said, "Give me a few days to think." Marcus stood up. "You have until Friday. After that, we take the project to another town." The days that followed were hard. Michael could not sleep well. He stared at the ceiling thinking about the plans, the statue, the people. Laura noticed. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," he lied. On Wednesday morning, he went to the square early. Almost no one was there. He sat on a park bench and looked at the statue. An elderly woman walked up and knelt in front of it. It was Mrs. Eleanor, 82 years old. Michael had known her since he was a boy. Every Wednesday, she came to pray. She always stayed exactly 30 minutes. That day she finished, stood up, and passed the bench. She stopped. "Good morning, Mayor." "Good morning, Mrs. Eleanor." She pointed to the statue. "My husband proposed to me right there. 58 years ago. He's gone now, but I still come to talk to him and to her." Michael swallowed hard. She looked at him gently. "Take good care of our town, Michael." Then she walked away. On Friday, Michael signed the order. He told himself it was for the good of the town. He told himself it was progress. Deep down, he knew he was choosing the easier path. The news spread fast. By noon, everyone in Willow Creek knew. People were angry. On Saturday morning, a group gathered in front of City Hall. They held signs. They prayed. They cried. Michael stayed inside his office. He watched from the window, but did not go out. That was when Mrs. Eleanor walked in. No one stopped her. She went straight to his office. "Mayor, I need to speak with you." Michael stood up. "Mrs. Eleanor, I know you're upset," she interrupted. Her voice was calm but strong. "I'm not upset. My heart is broken. I knew your mother. She was a woman of deep faith. What would she think of this?" Michael felt the words like a punch. Mrs. Eleanor stepped closer. "The town needs faith. It needs hope. It needs something to hold on to. You're taking that away." She turned and left. Michael stood still. His hands shook. The removal happened Monday night into Tuesday morning. Michael ordered it done quietly, in the dark, so no one would see. A crane lifted the statue. Workers placed it on a truck. By sunrise Tuesday, the square was empty. Only a concrete base remained. Mrs. Eleanor arrived first. She stopped in front of the empty space and cried. Other people came. Families. Older residents. They stared at the nothing where the statue used to stand. Michael watched from his office. He had not slept. When he saw Mrs. Eleanor crying, he closed the blinds. The removal happened quietly, between Monday night and Tuesday morning. Michael had planned it that way on purpose. A crane arrived after midnight. Workers lifted the statue carefully onto a flatbed truck. By the time the sky lightened, the statue was gone. Only the concrete base remained in the square, looking bare and wrong. Mrs. Eleanor was the first person to arrive that Tuesday morning. She walked to her usual spot, stopped, and stared at the empty space. She stood there without moving for a long time. Then she sank onto the nearest bench and cried. Quiet tears at first, then harder ones. She cried the way she had not cried since her husband died 20 years earlier. Other people began to come, families with young children, older residents who had prayed there every week. They gathered around the empty base in silence. Some made the sign of the cross. Some whispered prayers. Most just stood and looked, unable to believe what they saw. Michael watched everything from his office window. He had spent the night there. He had not slept. When he saw Mrs. Eleanor crying, he pulled the blinds closed. He sat at his desk with his head in his hands. The room felt too quiet. That night, Michael went home earlier than usual. Laura noticed right away. "You never get home before 7, she said. "I'm tired," he answered. He went straight to the bedroom. He took a shower. He lay down on the bed. Sleep would not come. He kept thinking about the statue, about Mrs. Eleanor's face, about the empty square, about the looks on people's faces when they saw what he had done. Around midnight, the smell started. It came slowly at first. Sweet. Familiar. Roses. Michael sat up in bed. The room was dark. Laura slept beside him. Everything looked normal. But the scent grew stronger. It filled the air. It filled his lungs. He got up. He opened the window. Cool night air came in. The smell did not fade. He checked the room. No flowers. No candles. Nothing. He went back to bed. He lay there staring at the ceiling while the scent of roses surrounded him. For the first time in years, he thought about his mother. He remembered when he was small. She took him to the square every Sunday after Massachusetts. She held his hand. She prayed quietly in front of the statue. He remembered her smile when she looked at it. He remembered how safe he felt standing beside her. The memory hurt more than he expected. The next days passed strangely. Michael did not tell anyone about the roses. Who would believe him? He barely believed it himself. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe his mind playing tricks. In the square, construction began. Barricades went up. Machines arrived. Workers started digging. Where people used to pray, there was now noise and dust. The town split. Some people accepted it. They said progress was necessary. Others kept protesting. Small groups gathered every evening. They prayed the rosary in front of the barricades. Mrs. Eleanor walked past the square every day. Each time she saw the machines, she cried again. On Thursday, Michael's phone rang. It was Laura. Her voice shook. "Michael, come home now." "What happened?" "It's Ethan. He's in the hospital." "It's serious." Michael's world stopped. He ran out of the office. He drove home faster than he ever had. Laura waited in the living room. She cried with the phone still in her hand. He had a bad respiratory infection. It got worse fast. His lungs are failing. The doctors say they don't know if he'll make it. Michael sat down hard on the couch. His hands shook. His heart pounded. Ethan, his only son, the son he had not spoken to in 3 years, the son he had told not to come back. And now it might be too late. "I need to go," he said. "I need to go now." The drive to the hospital took almost 4 hours. The longest 4 hours of his life. He drove in silence. Laura sat beside him. Neither spoke. What was there to say after 3 years of nothing? Michael thought about every word he had not said. Every "I love you" he swallowed. Every apology he never gave. He thought about the statue too. He realized he had done the same thing to Ethan. He had removed him from his life. He had left an empty space where love should have been. When they arrived, Michael ran through the white corridors until he found Ethan's room. His son lay in the bed, pale, thin, breathing with help from machines. Michael stopped in the doorway. His legs would not move. Laura went in first. She took Ethan's hand. She cried. Michael stepped closer slowly. He looked at his son's face. For the first time in years, tears came. "Forgive me, son," he whispered. "Forgive me." The doctor came in soon after. He was a man in his 50s with tired eyes. "The situation is serious," he said. "The infection spread quickly. His lungs are badly affected. The next 48 hours are critical." Michael asked the only question that mattered. "Will he be okay?" The doctor looked at him. "I can't promise anything. We're doing everything we can. Now it's a matter of waiting and praying." Michael stayed by the bed. He did not leave. He watched every breath. He remembered when Ethan was little, teaching him to ride a bike, playing catch in the backyard. Where had that time gone? How had they come to this? On the second night at the hospital, Michael could not take it anymore. He had not slept properly in days. His body ached. His eyes burned from watching the monitors. Ethan still breathed with help from the machines. No real change. The doctors kept saying the same thing. "We're monitoring. The next hours will tell us more." Michael left the room quietly. He walked down the empty corridors until he found the small chapel on the ground floor. It was a plain room. A few wooden pews. A simple altar. An image of the Virgin Mary stood there, smaller than the one from the square, but with the same gentle face and blue mantle. Michael stopped at the doorway. The last time he had entered a chapel was his mother's funeral 15 years earlier. Since then, nothing. No Massachusetts. No prayers. No quiet talks with God. He walked in slowly. He sat in the front pew. He looked at the image. Words would not come at first. His throat felt tight. His eyes stung. Finally he spoke, voice low and rough. "I don't know how to pray anymore. It's been too long. I forgot everything." He lowered his head. "But my son, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help him. I just want him to be okay. That's all I want. I promise I'll fix things. I'll fix everything. But please, don't take my son." He stayed there for hours. He did not say formal prayers. He did not recite the ones he learned as a child. He just sat with an open heart. He waited for something he could not name. When he finally returned to Ethan's room, the night was almost over. He sat beside the bed again. He took his son's hand. He held it tightly. The third night came. Laura had stepped out to get coffee. The doctors had just finished their evening check. Still no major improvement. Michael stood by the window. The city lights glowed below. He felt tired in every bone. Then the smell returned. Roses. Sweet. Strong. The same scent from that night at home. It filled the room quickly. Michael turned around. A woman stood beside Ethan's bed. She wore a white dress with a blue mantle over it. Her hair was covered by a veil. Her face was calm. Her eyes were the kindest Michael had ever seen. He wanted to speak. He wanted to move. His body would not obey. He stood frozen, staring. The woman looked at Ethan. Then she looked at Michael. She smiled. The smile carried peace. It passed through fear. It passed through doubt. It passed through everything Michael had carried for years. "You came," he whispered, voice shaking. She reached out. Her hand touched Ethan's forehead. The touch was light, gentle, like a mother comforting a sick child. Michael blinked. She was gone. The room was empty again. Only the dim light from the hallway and the steady beep of the monitors. But the smell of roses remained. It lingered. Michael walked to the bed. He looked at his son. Something felt different. Not something he could see. Something he felt inside. A quiet change. He took Ethan's hand again. "You're going to be okay," he said. This time he believed it. The next morning the doctor came for the routine check. Michael had not slept. He had stayed by the bed all night, holding Ethan's hand, saying the only prayers he could remember. "Hail Mary, our Father." Simple words from childhood. The doctor listened to Ethan's lungs. He checked the monitors. He looked at the charts. His face changed. "This is strange," the doctor said. "What?" Michael asked. His heart beat hard. "He's improving. His oxygen levels are better. The infection markers are dropping faster than we expected." "Is that good?" "It's unexpected. Last night, I was preparing you for the worst. Today, I'm seeing a turnaround I've rarely seen in cases this severe." Michael looked at Ethan. He looked at the bed where, only hours before, he had seen what he had seen. The doctor put a hand on Michael's shoulder. "It's still early, but for the first time since he arrived, I feel optimistic." Tears came again. Laura arrived minutes later with coffee. When Michael told her, she cried with relief. "Thank God," she said. "Thank God." Michael did not tell her about the woman in blue. He did not tell anyone. How could he explain it? Who would believe him? He was not even sure himself if it had been real or if his tired mind had created it. But the smell of roses had been real, and Ethan was getting better. The days after that night were slow but steady. Ethan began to improve. First, his oxygen levels rose enough that the doctors reduced the support from the machines. Then he opened his eyes. At first he was too weak to speak much, but he squeezed Michael's hand when he saw him. That small movement felt like everything. Laura stayed by the bed too. She talked softly to Ethan about home, about old memories, about how much they had missed him. Michael listened. He did not interrupt. For the first time in years, he let the words come without trying to fix or direct them. When Ethan grew stronger, they talked. Really talked. It started small. Ethan spoke about his life in the city, his job writing music for small bands, his girlfriend who had stayed with him through the worst days. Then he spoke about the resentment. "I was angry, Dad. For a long time. I thought you didn't care what I wanted." Michael nodded. He did not defend himself. "I was wrong," he said. "I thought I was protecting you, but I was only protecting my own ideas. I let pride win, and I almost lost you because of it." Ethan looked at him. "When I was at my worst, before you got here, I had a dream. Or maybe it wasn't a dream. I'm not sure." Michael's breath caught. "What did you see?" "A woman in blue. She stood beside me. She didn't say much, just that everything would be okay. And I believed her." Michael felt the same shiver he had felt that night in the room. He did not tell Ethan what he had seen. Not yet. But the words stayed between them. Something shared that needed no explanation. Weeks passed. Ethan got stronger. He sat up. He walked the hospital corridors with Michael holding his arm. They laughed sometimes, small, careful laughs at first, then easier ones. One afternoon in the hallway, Ethan stopped. He looked at his father. I was wrong too. I was stubborn. I could have called. I could have tried harder. Michael shook his head. We both were. But we're here now. They hugged. Right there in the corridor. 3 years of silence ended in that one embrace. Before Ethan left the hospital, Michael told him about the square. About the statue. About the decision he had made. Ethan listened quietly. When Michael finished, Ethan said, I think Grandma would be proud. Michael nodded. I think so too. Michael returned to Willow Creek with Laura and Ethan. Ethan still needed rest, but he wanted to come. The first thing Michael did was go to the square. Construction was still going on. Machines moved earth. Workers hammered. Barricades blocked the paths people used to walk. Michael stood there a long time. Then he went to his office. He called Harold. The meeting happened the next day. Harold, Bill, and Marcus came in with confident smiles. They thought Michael wanted to discuss details. Michael waited until they sat down. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. The construction stops today. The smiles disappeared. Harold leaned forward. What do you mean stops? Michael placed the contract on the desk. I read it again. There's a clause that allows the scope to change. We're not building kiosks or shops. We're restoring the square. We're making it clean, beautiful, and the statue of the Virgin Mary will go back where it belongs. Restored and protected. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. We invested money. We expected a return. Michael looked at each of them. You'll take a loss. I understand that. I will too. You won't fund my re-election. I'm not running again. Harold stared. Because of an old statue? Michael answered quietly. Because I almost lost my son. I learned some things matter more than progress. More than a political career. That statue means faith to people here. It means hope. It means memory. I took it away. Now I'm putting it back. The three men left angry. The door closed hard behind them. Michael stayed alone in the office. He looked out the window at the barricades. For the first time in weeks, he felt peace. The news spread fast. Construction halted. The statue would return. People did not believe it at first. Then they started to smile. Mrs. Eleanor came to City Hall the next morning. She walked into Michael's office. This time her eyes were bright. Mayor, she said, voice trembling. You did the right thing. Michael stood up. You were right, Mrs. Eleanor. About the town. About faith. About my mother. She stepped forward and hugged him. A hug full of years and prayers. Michael hugged her back. The statue returned 2 weeks later. There was no big ceremony. No speeches. Just the community gathered quietly. Workers lifted the restored statue back into place. People watched in silence. Some cried. Laura stood beside Michael. Ethan stood with them, still a little pale, but strong enough to be there. When the statue settled onto its base, Ethan looked up. It's beautiful, he said. Michael nodded. It is. Grandma must be happy. They stood side by side. Father and son. Two stubborn men who had almost lost each other. But they had not. Months went by after the statue returned to its place. Michael finished his term as mayor and did not run again. He no longer wanted that life. Politics had taken enough from him. He chose something quieter now. He stayed in Willow Creek. He lived in the same house with Laura. But everything felt different. Ethan moved closer. Not to Willow Creek, but to a city only an hour away. Close enough for weekend visits. Close enough for Sunday lunches. Close enough for long talks on the back porch. Father and son rebuilt what they had lost. They talked about the past. They talked about the future. They laughed at old stories. They apologized again when needed. They hugged without hesitation. Michael and Laura changed too. They spoke more. They listened better. They sat together in the evenings without the television on. They held hands when they walked. They looked like a couple who had found each other again after many years apart. Every week, without fail, Michael went to the square. He sat on the same park bench where he had first started to question everything. He looked at the statue of the Virgin Mary. He spoke to her quietly, the way he would speak to an old friend. He told her about his day, about Ethan's new songs, about Laura's smile, about the small joys and the small struggles of ordinary life. Sometimes he just sat in silence. That silence felt like prayer. The real miracle was not the smell of roses. It was not the vision in the hospital room. It was not even Ethan's healing. The deepest miracle happened inside Michael's heart. A man who had drifted far from faith came back. A father who had pushed his son away welcomed him home. A family that had grown cold found warmth again. Forgiveness replaced pride. Love replaced distance. The statue had always been there. It never needed to leave to prove its power. It stood as a quiet reminder that some things last longer than plans, longer than progress, longer than power. Michael learned this the hardest way. But he learned that if you are carrying something heavy right now, if there is someone you need to forgive or someone you need to ask forgiveness from, if you have grown distant from the people you love or from the faith you once held, maybe this story is for you. Maybe it is time to take the first step. The bench is still there. The statue is still there. And the mother who watches over all of us is still there. Before we finish, I want to invite you to join our prayer community for the Virgin Mary. It is a place of faith and hope where people from all over the world come together to pray and share the graces they receive. If you feel in your heart that you want to be part of this chain of prayer, click below and become a member of the channel today. Come pray with us. And if you made it to the end of Michael's story, do one thing for me. Write in the comments, "Park bench," the place where Michael sat down and began to rethink everything. I want to see how many hearts this story has truly reached. Every time I read those words, I will know one more person believes the miracles of the Virgin Mary still happen today. But if this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Write in the comments about a miracle you have seen or lived through. Share this video with someone who needs hope right now. May the Virgin Mary continue to bless and protect you and your family. Amen.